go against the grain. I'm off the chain.
I have actually. This is my first trip here, so I'm trying to fit everything in on this one trip. But I've been to the zoo, Tonga Zoo, I believe is out there.
Tonga,
yeah, Tonga. I actually went and surfed for the first time in my life yesterday down at Bondi Beach. So had a lot of fun. Went on a little water taxi today around the harbor, so that was kind of fun. And it's been really nice weather, so I've had a really good time here so far. Definitely a fan growing up. I was a huge fan from the time I can remember, maybe 7 or 8 years old. And I was a hockey player growing up in Canada, so hockey was my first love. And still being a wrestling fan, once my hockey career kind of ended when I was 19, 20 years old, competitive hockey anyways, I wanted to try my hand into wrestling, and I was friends with Val Venus. So luckily for me, we started training kind of one-on-one, and taught me a lot, and then kind of passed the training services off to his friend and former tag team partner, Shane Sewell. And he continued the one-on-one training, and I really benefited from the one-on-one training because it was, it wasn't necessarily I was going to a school and training with a bunch of different guys. It was literally one-on-one training, so it helped me out immensely. I mean, as a fan, growing up as a kid, I loved watching Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. Definitely a huge inspiration to me getting into the business, Ric Flair. And of course, when I was a young kid, I was a huge Hulk Hogan fan. So, I mean, all the characters from the late 80s, early 90s. Bret Hart was a huge influence as well, being Canadian. So, yeah, a bunch of different guys. But if there was one guy that I could pick that really kind of, made me a fan and made me really want to try the business was Kurt Hennig. 98, the one guy that comes to mind is Eric Young. I've known Eric Young for many years. We really didn't become friends until later on. Probably I want to say maybe 2001, 2002. But I believe he broke into the business in '97. So he had a year under his belt before I even started. But in Toronto and in the Ontario area, it's really at that time there was a bunch of different independents going on, and it was kind of cliquish. So we kind of crossed paths a few times and said hello to one another, but we never really, like I said, became friends and really known each other until 2001. It was definitely a learning experience. When I got over there, I was very green. I was less than a month into the business. I had 8 matches under my belt, going over to Puerto Rico, and Shane actually helped me get over there. He was a huge star over in Puerto Rico, and when I got there, it was like a complete culture change, and the wrestling fans over there were so different, and very passionate about it. And I was young at the time, and I think I maybe was in over my head a little bit. And got a little scared. There was a hurricane that hit just before I got down there, so there was no power in the place I was staying at, and so I didn't stay very long. But looking back on it, it was a huge learning experience. And if I could, say anything about Puerto Rico, at that time was a great place to learn. You were able to wrestle 4 days a week, and the 3 days that you're off, you're staying on the beach, so you couldn't complain about that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Team Canada. That's where I got my feet wet, with the company. So a lot of fond memories, a lot of memorable times with Eric Young and Petey Williams, even Johnny Devine at the time. We kind of rotated the 4th guy in a lot, Johnny Devine and A1, and there was a couple other guys I think that came in and out, but the mainstay guys were the 3 of us, and we had a lot of fun. I became an NWA World Tag Team Champion with Showtime Eric Young twice with the company, and I had a lot of great matches, and one of the matches actually that stand out of my mind all the time in 2004 was the match I had with Jerry Lynn. And Jerry still talks about it to this day. We actually talked about for Rory about it, how we just had really good chemistry together, and so Jerry and I, that was one of the matches in 2004 that really sticks out, as well as the entire X Cup, because that's really what kind of got me my job. Jeff Jarrett were the guys. I mean, Scott mainly. I mean, he went to Jeff and mentioned my name. And there was actually at the time, there was 2 Canadian guys that were up for the job. It was myself and another guy. I think he was from Calgary. I don't know the name. I'm pretty sure it was Calgary, but it was an X Division tournament. And at the time, I was about 225, 230, 230 pounds. So I wasn't really X Division. I wasn't X Division looking, that's for sure. But or even the style. But at that time, so you know, Scott went to Jeff and said, I got this guy and this guy, and Jeff told Scott to pick, and he picked me. I worked for Scott in the past, and became a friend of Scott's, and he helped me out before even TNA came along. So it was definitely Scott that got me in, got my foot in the door. And Scott still to this day is a good friend of mine. I talk to him a lot. He actually represents me. He's an agent of mine, and Scott's kind of out of the wrestling business now. He's got a lot of other things going on, but him and I stay in touch quite a bit. If you're asking me from the very first time we tagged together, we had no idea where it was going to go. It was basically a short-term idea, just to pass some time for James and I, and it kind of turned into an overnight success. And I think a lot of it had to do with our work ethic. And when we tagged together the first time, I remember we had such great chemistry, and we actually, the both of us kind of looked at each other, and it was kind of fun. I think we got something here. And then he was doing a backstage interview, and he said the 2 things that make the world go round is beer and money. And right away it clicked, and that was the name. And then from there on, when we took off, we literally were an overnight success, and we came up, with a bunch of merchandise ideas, and the double suplex, the silly beer money stuff that we did, and just the silly antics that we picked up along the way. We had a lot of fun. A lot of it you didn't get a chance to see on TV or pay-per-view, but the live events, we tried a lot of different stuff and made the people laugh and entertain the fans. So, I had a blast. It was a good time. Let me think of a team. Team Canada. Probably AMW. Team Canada. We had really good matches together. Oddly enough, James was on the other side at the time, but probably there's 2 favorites really with beer money. Obviously, the Motor City Machine Guns. We had great matches with them, and Team 3D, because such different styles. The Motor City Machine Guns were a lot smaller, a lot faster, and Team 3D were a lot bigger and a lot more methodical. So 2 different ends of the spectrum, but we had great matches with both teams. And the Team 3D, those guys really passed the torch to James and I, and kind of taught us things that we never really knew about tag team wrestling, and really helped us get to where we're at. Well, hopefully we get to pick up the slack a little bit. At TNA, for some reason, it's kind of fell to the wayside a little bit, but there's lots of good teams that are still in our locker room. The Mexican America is right now our World Tag Team Champions, and we have the British Invasion, who are sitting back waiting in the wings. I think they're a great tag team with a lot of charisma, great wrestling style. Once Chris Sabin's back healthy, I hope to see the Motor City Machine Guns back together, because they're without a doubt one of the greatest tag teams in the world. So and of course we got Inc. too. We still have tag teams floating around. It's just a matter of time of finding space and really devoting some time to the tag team scene again. I think it's very important to have the X Division with our company. It separates us from every other company out there. And those guys, they're such great athletes, and the things they can do. I couldn't even imagine doing them, but it's really makes it different on the show. It makes them different than what I do. It makes them different than what Sting does, or even Hulk Hogan or Kurt Angle can do. It's almost like a little sideshow, but at the same time, we have a world title, an X Division world title, and they're out there not just to be flipping and flying around. There's a purpose for them out there, and now they've got to a point where they're out there telling stories, which is very important, as well as doing all the moves. So I'm a huge X Division fan. That's where I started, was in the X Division with the X Cup. So I'm a big supporter of it. Yeah, it's great having them around, of course, for the casual wrestling fan to turn over or to read about Impact Wrestling and see names like that. But as far as one guy that's really helped me out, I mean, Sting has always been in my corner. He's been a huge fan of mine and always tried to help me out and stuff like that backstage. And Ric Flair was my mentor, basically, not just on screen but behind the scenes as well to James and I, and as a part of Fortune. So yeah, those guys are always there to help out, it seems, and they know where they're at in their career, and they love the wrestling business and want to pass the torch to the younger guys like myself and James and AJ. So yeah, they're always available there to answer any questions or to maybe give some advice. It was the biggest moment of my career. It was built up over the course of 5 weeks leading up to the match very, very well, I thought. And just being in the ring with, I was always been a huge fan of Kurt. I think bar none, he's probably the best wrestler in the world. So just being in there against Kurt was a big deal, but being in there in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship just made it that much more important and that much more significant to me. And it's probably the biggest match I've ever had in my career, and it'll be a memory that I'll have for a long time. It's been a long journey. It's been 13 and a half years. So, it's the greatest feeling in the world. It's all the sacrifices and everything that I've done to get to this point has come to a head. And now the challenge starts again. This is a new chapter. So, with that title, there comes a lot of pressures, and so I'm hoping to be the guy to carry the company to the next level and to create more pay-per-view buys and have more fans tune in every week and get the ratings up and just be the guy that the face of the company. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. To be patient, to be very patient. It's not. You're not gonna go to a wrestling school and be on Impact Wrestling, the very next month or even the next year. Who knows? It's, to be quite honest, not everybody makes it, but you go out there and you have a level head, you have respect for the guys that have been there before you, and have open ears and don't have an attitude, and get to the gym. And you look at the guys you see on TV, try to aspire to look like them and be different than everybody else, bring something special to the table, and who knows what could happen. Personally, I see myself, being one of the greatest champions that this company or the business has ever seen. I'm really, right now, I'm feeling great mentally. I feel great physically. I'm in the best shape of my life. And, the next 5 years, like I said, it's a new chapter right now. I've worked 13 years, 7.5 with this company to be a world champion, and now I'm a world champion. So now it's time to move on and to prove to the world that I deserve this. And the next 5 years are going to be a lot of fun, I promise. Icon. Best X Division wrestler I've seen in a long time. My boss. One of the best wrestlers in the world. The best wrestler in the world. Former friend, but I have a lot of respect for him. Former manager. Big boobs. Greatest tag team of all time. The most recognizable name in professional wrestling. The next big star.